All right, we made it through a lot of the theory. Thank you for sticking with me there. I think that there was a lot of groundwork that had to be laid for getting to why we want to be doing this at all. And so I think I made a pretty good case for why learning a meditation practice is very important. But now we're going to be learning the hands-on tools of how to apply that into learning skills. For instance, practicing the guitar or some other musical instrument. Anything I'm talking about with this can be applied to any musical instrument or skill, right? And I think that's very important to see that a lot of these techniques that we learn can be interdisciplinary. That this doesn't apply just to learning music. We should also see how it can apply to lifting weights or learning how to play soccer or learning how to build a table or knitting, whatever. I'm going to relate that in some ways. It will be up to you to see how that can apply to all sorts of different skills that we can learn, specifically physical skills. I think learning a lot of information is a different technique, and we'll talk about that as well. So first of all, what we want to do for this course is we want to have a notebook or a journal. It can be a very cheap one. It doesn't have to be really fancy or whatever, but it's something hopefully that you like, but it could easily be one that's meant for like school. So you want to go to the store, you want to get a journal or a notepad or something, because we are actually going to be journaling our practice now. This is a really important step and often something that hardly anybody does. But journaling something is a really good way of seeing progress and being able to note what you actually did, what you practiced, and how you solved issues is hugely important. And the first thing that we're going to write in there is, what is your motivation? Right? Know your motivation for learning an instrument or any sort of skill. Your motivation can be really anything. It could be that you like the instrument, you like the way it sounds, you would like to be able to do it, and that's great. It could be that you want recognition from your friends, right? It could be that you're trying to attract people. It could be that you know that having skills is valuable as like social currency. It could be that you like a style of music that you want to be able to play like. It could be that a parent wants you to learn. That's also a form of motivation. And so whatever your motivation is, we should know it. We want to know our motivation. We want to write it down. We want to be clear on what it is so that we can keep coming back to that motivation when things are starting to not be fun anymore. Because learning a skill is not always fun. And we also don't want to quit when it's no longer fun, because it will become fun again. When it comes to motivations, there are usually two different main types. There is extrinsic motivation, motivations that are kind of imposed upon us by society, friends, family, a partner, or what have you. Doing well in school, for instance, like it could be because you want to do well, because you want to learn, but it could also be because your parent expects you to do well. Or the university you want to get into expects you to get certain grades. So extrinsic motivation, although people might see it as being like a negative because it's coming from outside you, it can actually be a very useful form of motivation for us. All right, so know if that's your motivation, right? The other form is intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation comes from in us. You have a specific goal, an interest that comes from you. You want to be creative. You want to learn a certain song. You want to be able to play like Jimi Hendrix. You want to be able to play a Chopin piece on the piano. Whatever it is, that intrinsic motivation comes from a desire within yourself. What we want to do is we want to write that in our journal. First page, we're going to write our motivation. And then we want to write a long-term goal. It could be learning a specific song. It could be being able to improvise. It could be writing a song, right? Something that's kind of like a long-term goal. And then we might want to later on kind of fill in a little bit more short-term goals, kind of steps to get to that long-term goal, and eventually kind of daily goals. The majority of the rest of this course is going to be separated into 5 main sections. And these sections are what I'm calling the 5 pillars of mindful music practice. These include body awareness, self-talk, identifying issues, journaling, and building focus. And we're going to be going into those on a deeper level. So we've already kind of talked about journaling. And the first thing that we did was we wrote down our motivations and a long-term goal. Because having that to come back to is very important, right? We're going to talk more about journaling in a little bit. And we'll encourage you again to start to cultivate a mindfulness or meditative practice outside of your music practice, even if it's just for 2 to 5 minutes before our practice session starts. This can really help us build focus in a vacuum. A lot of people find it actually quite challenging to focus when nothing is happening. And so, in a way, focusing on something when there's a lot of stimulation going on can be kind of harder. If there's a lot of stimulation, there's a lot of things to pay attention to. So we can kind of give ourselves a leg up by limiting the amount of stimulation we have to begin with. And then when we apply this to our music practice, then there's a lot more going on, but we have the tools. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. I just wanted to encourage it. So now we have arrived at our first exercise. And the first exercise goes into the section of body awareness. We've already talked about mindfulness and what it is and bringing the attention to the body. So this is our first exercise. For this, we actually need to be holding our instrument. So I grabbed my acoustic guitar and we're just going to begin practicing. Let's just say that we are going to be working through a scale. I know that scales aren't usually people's favorite thing to practice, so this is probably a good thing to start with. We're just going to start with like a C major scale. Now, if you are a pianist, you can play this on the piano. If you're a flautist, you can do it there. Whatever instrument is your choice, you can do that. Now, we don't have to do that with this specific thing. This is for anything that we are practicing. It could be chord changes, right? It could be a melody. It could be a certain part of a song that you're working on. But the big thing here is becoming aware of your body sensations. So become aware of how you're holding the guitar. Okay? You don't have to change it, but just become aware of how you're holding it. Where does your hand lay on the neck? Where does your other arm rest? Is it comfortable? Is it not? Do you have any pain while doing this? Are we crossing our legs like this? Do we feel closed off? Or are we a little bit more open? Are we relaxed? Right, but as I said, we don't want to be changing anything yet. Just notice. And as we're playing through, notice the feeling of the vibration of the strings. Notice the sound. Okay. And the main part here is, because we're going to be building on this in further exercises, but I want you to become aware of your breathing. That's the first exercise right there. Become aware of your breathing. So as we're playing through the scale, become aware if you're breathing shallowly, if you're holding your breath. Often people can hold their breath while they're playing. It's okay right now. We're just noticing. Are we breathing deeply? Are we breathing at all? Is it erratic? Are we breathing with every note? That's the exercise. Become aware of your breathing while we are playing. Okay? You can do that for like 2 to 5 minutes of your practice. Then you can go on to play whatever you want. Okay? I'm not saying that you have to do this the entire time, because you might have specific things you're preparing for or what have you. Or you could be a beginner. Whatever level you're at, become aware of your breathing while you are practicing. Just for a few minutes. And then you can go back to whatever you like. Okay? That's the exercise. Journal your experience. Say what you were practicing, in this case, the C major scale, and then write down if you were holding your breath, if you were breathing deeply or shallowly, what it felt like, right? And any sort of concerns you have about it. You could even write down, like, I think that this is kind of stupid, whatever. That's fine, but just write that down, okay? Note how long you did it for and your feelings. You can do this for a few days, even up to a week. Just have a little bit at the beginning of your practice where you are becoming aware of your breath, and note the experience. Really, I'm serious, write it down in your journal. Okay, and with that, I'll see you in the next session.